Hello everyone, it's Miss Hinde-Taylor here reading chapter 19, I think, of Joe Abercrombie's Half a King. And the title of this chapter is Bending with Circumstance. Someone slapped Yarvy's face. He saw the hand, heard the noise, but hardly felt it. "Run!" hissed Jowd's voice. The closest Yarvy could manage was the shivering shamble, his flapping chain and his soaked clothes dragging him down with every step, the shingle clutching at his waterlogged boots. He tripped often, but whenever he fell, strong arms would be there to haul him up, to haul him on into the darkness. "Go!" grunted Rolf. Near the snow-covered top of the beach, Yarvy snatched one look back and forced out gods through his rattling teeth. Mother Sea was hungrily swallowing the south wind. The forecastle was wreathed in fire. Rigging made lines of flame, the top of the mast where Samel used to perch ablaze. The benches where Yarvy had struggled were flooded, tangled oars sticking up helplessly like the legs of a turned-over woodlouse. Only one corner of the aft castle still showed above waters alive with the reflections of fire. The hold, the stores and the captain's cabin were drowned in the silence beneath. There were black figures on the shore, on the jetty, staring. Guards who had escaped nothing's sword? Slaves who had somehow got free of their chains? Yarvy wondered if he could hear faint cries above the keening of the wind, faint screams above the crackling of the flames. There was no way to know who luck had saved from that ordeal of fire and water, who was living and who dead, and Yarvy was too cold to be glad he had survived one more disaster, let alone to be sad that anyone else had not. No doubt the regrets would come soon enough, if he lived out the night. "Move," said Samel. They bundled him over the crest and he tumbled down the far side, came to rest on his back in a drift, skin on fire with the cold, each icy gasp like a knife in his throat. He saw Rolf's broad face with a glimmer of orange down one cheek, Samel's gaunt and twitching in the light of Father Moon. "Leave me," he tried to say, but his mouth was too numb to make the words. His teeth chilled to the roots, and all that came out was a weak puff of smoke. "We go together," said Samel. "Wasn't that the deal? I thought it was finished when Trigg started throttling me." "Oh, you won't wriggle out of that easily." She caught him by the crooked wrist. "Get up." He'd been betrayed by his own family, his own people, and found loyalty among a set of slaves who owed him nothing. He was so pathetically glad of it he wanted to weep, but he had a feeling he would need his tears later. With Samel's help he managed to get up, with Rolf's and Jowd's to flounder on, hardly thinking about the course except to keep the sinking south wind somewhere at his back. The icy wetness squelched in his boots. The wind cut through his soaked and chafing clothes as though he wore nothing. "Did you have to pick the coldest place the gods have made for your escape?" growled Rolf. "And the coldest time of year?" "I had a better plan." Samel sounded less than delighted with the total ruin of it too, but it sunk with the south wind. "Plans must sometimes bend with circumstance," said Jowd. "Bend?" growled Rolf. "This one snapped in pieces." "Over there." Yarvy pointed with the frozen stub of his finger. Up ahead a stunted tree clawed at the night, each branch picked out on top in white, underneath in the faintest flickering of orange. He hardly dared believe his own eyes, but he started towards it as fast as he could. Even so, half walking, half crawling, all desperate. At that moment, even a dream of fire seemed better than nothing. "Wait," hissed Samel. "We don't know who." "We don't care," said Rolf, floundering past. The fire had been built in a hollow beneath that twisted tree, where there was some shelter from the wind, the fragments of a broken crate carefully arranged, the smallest flame flickering in their midst. Hunched over it, coaxing it into life with his smoking breath, was Ancran. Had Yarvy made the choice of who to save, Ancran's name would have been far from the first on his lips. But freeing Rolf and Jowd meant freeing their all-mate, and Yarvy would have thrown himself at Odin's feet right then, had he offered warmth. He flopped onto his knees, holding his shaking hands towards the flames. Jowd planted his fists on his hips. "You made it then." "Some turds float," said Rolf. Ancran only rubbed at his crooked nose. "If my stench bothers you, you could find your own fire." A hatchet slid silently from Samel's sleeve, the dangling blade gleaming. "I like this one." The ex-storekeeper shrugged. "Then far be it from me to turn the desperate away. Welcome, one and all, to my mansion." Samel had already shinned up the frozen rocks to the tree and neatly lopped off a branch. Now she wedged it in the ground so its twigs were towards the fire. She snapped her fingers at Yarvi. Get your clothes off. Romance yet survives, said Rolf, fluttering his eyelashes at the sky. Smell ignored him. Wet clothes will kill you in the night, sure as any enemy. Now the cold was loosening its grip, Yarvi was feeling his bruises. Every muscle aching and his head sore and his neck throbbing from Trigg's hands. Even had he wanted to, he lacked the strength to eject. He peeled off his soaked clothes, some of the hems already stiff with ice, and huddled as close to the fire as he dared, near naked but for collar and chain. Rolf dumped an old fleece around his shuddering shoulders. I'm lending that, he said, not giving it. Much appreciated, either way. Yarvi forced through his chattering teeth as he watched Samael hang his clothes facing the flames, where they began to gently steam. What if someone sees the light? Jowd was asking, frowning back the way they had come. If you'd rather freeze, sit in the darkness. You'll find plenty of it. Ankron tried to prod more warmth from the fire with a twig. For my part, I suspect the fight, then the ship aflame, then the ship sinking, would have dampened their appetite for a search. As long as we're well gone before dawn, said Rolf. Gone where? Asked Samael, squatting beside Yarvi. East was the obvious choice. East along the coast, the way the south wind had brought them. But west was where Yarvi needed to go, west of Ansterland, west to Getland, west to Odin and Vengeance. And the sooner, the better. He glanced around this motley fellowship, all huddled over the life-giving flames, faces pinched and strange in its light, wondering how he could possibly convince them to go the wrong way. East, of course, said Rolf. How long ago did we pass that trading post? Samael spent a moment reckoning on her fingers. On foot we might make it in 3 days. It'll be hard going. Rolf scrubbed with his nails at his stubbly chin. Damn hard going, and I'll be going west, said Ankron. Bent jaw clenched and his eyes fixed on the flames. There was silence as they all looked at him. West to where? Asked Jowd. Thulby. Yarvi could only raise his brows at help from such an unexpected quarter. Rolf burst out laughing. Thank you for giving me one good chuckle before I die, Master Ankron. Our ex-storekeeper's walking to Getland. To Vansterland. I'll try to find a ship to take me from there. Rolf chuckled again. So you're only going to walk till Volsgard? And how long a stroll do you reckon that to be, O navigator? At least a month on foot. Samil said it so quickly she already must have worked it out. A month of this? Rolf waved his broad hand towards the snow-covered emptiness they had struggled through already, and Yarvi had to admit the thought was by no means a heartening one. With what gear? I have a shield. Jowd swung it off his back and knocked at it with one fist. A large, round shield of rough wood with an iron boss. I thought to use it as a float. And a generous guard lent me his bow. Rolf plucked at the string as if it were a harp. But with no arrows, it plays no music. Does anyone have a tent? Extra clothes? Blankets? Sleds? Silence, aside from the moaning of the chill wind just outside their firelit hollow. Then the very best of luck, Master Ankron. It's been my pleasure to row beside you, but I fear our ways must part. The rest of us will be going east. What fool put you in charge? They all spun about as the voice croaked from the darkness, and nothing was there. He was streaked with soot, as well as his usual dirt, rags and hair, and beard all blackened. He had Trigg's boot on, and Trigg's jacket, blood crusting one shoulder. Over the other he carried a great roll of singed sailcloth, and cradled in one arm, like a babe against the freezing night, the sword with which Yarvi had seen him kill 6 men. He dropped cross-legged beside the fire as though it was a meeting long arranged, and gave a satisfied sigh as he held his palms to the flames. West of Getland sounds well. We will be followed. Trigg? Asked Samael. You need give no more thought to our overseer. My debt to him is paid. But between me and Shadik-Sharam the account is still open. Nothing licked a finger and polished a blemish from the blade of his sword. We must put her far behind us. Us? Snapped Samael, and Yarvi noticed that, just behind her back, the hatchet was ready. You're inviting yourself along? The firelight shifted in Nothing's mad eyes. Unless someone else wants to invite me. Yarvi held his hands up between them and smoothed the way for farther peace. We need all the help we can get. What's your name, even? Nothing stared off into the night sky, as though the answer might be written in the stars. I've had 3 names, perhaps 4, but all of them brought me bad luck. I would hate them to bring you bad luck too. If you must talk to me, Nothing will do, but I am no great talker. Shadik-Sharam will be coming, and she will expect us to go east. Because going west is madness. Rolf rounded on Samael. Tell them. She pressed her scarred lips together and narrowed her eyes at the fire. East is quicker. East is easier. There. barked Rolf, slapping his thigh. I'm going west, said Samel. Eh? East there will be people, anyone who got off the ship. Then that trading post was crawling with slavers. And Vansterland isn't? Asked Rolf, because we always did good business in England's there. East is dangerous, said Samel. West is nothing but weeks of wilderness. There is forest. Forest might mean fuel. Might mean food. East has the trading post, but then? Only the fens and the wild. Hundreds of miles of it. West is Vansterland. West is civilization. West is, maybe, ships that go further west, that go home. Home. Gerald stared into the flames as though he glimpsed his village there, and that well with the sweetest water in the world. We head inland, said Samel, out of sight of any ships, then west. Rolf flung up his hands. How will you find your way out in the snows? You'll end up walking in circles. Samel slid a leather package from inside her coat and rolled it to show her eyeglass and instruments. I'll find my way, old man. Don't worry on that score. I can't say I much look forward to either route, especially in this company, but west might be the better chance. Might be. Samel shrugged. Sometimes might be is the best you can hope for. 3 for west. Hankron had his first smile Yarvi had seen him give since Schlickstrom knocked his 2 front teeth out. What about you, big man? Gerald propped his chin thoughtfully on one fist and looked at the circle. He carefully eyed each of them and ended on Samel's instruments. He shrugged his heavy shoulders and took a long breath. There is no man I would rather have beside me in a fight, Rolf, but when it comes to getting from place to place, I trust Samel. I go west, if you will have me. You can hold your shield over me when it snows, said Samel. You're all bloody mad. Rolf slapped down a heavy hand on Yarvi's shoulder. Looks like it's just you and me, Yorv. I'm very flattered by the offer. Yarvi slipped from under Rolf's hand and his fleece together and back into his shirt, not altogether dry, but close enough. But the first thing we have to do is stick together. Stick together or die apart. That and his chair and his oath and his vengeance all waited for him in Getland. And the longer they waited, the less his chance of ever claiming them. We'll all be going west. And Yarvi gave Rolf a grin and slapped him on the shoulder with his good hand. I prayed for younger help, but I'll take what I can get. Gods, Rolf pressed at his temples with the heels of his hands. We'll all regret this. It can keep the rest of my regrets company. Nothing stared off into the darkness as though he saw a ghostly host beyond the firelight. There are enough of them. And that's the end of that chapter, guys. Join me next time for the next chapter entitled Freedom. Take care.